Welcome to the podcast. It's a Monday. We're going to talk some NASCAR with Rod Mullins, and we had the race in Richmond this past weekend, the Saturday night race, the only race in Richmond in 2025, and Austin Dillon, the big winner, punching his ticket to the 2025 playoffs. A lot going on in that race, Rod. To kind of break down, Austin Dillon is the guy who led the last 49 laps or so, but
Right.
there was a lot going on. Bubba Wallace had a good run and then had a
hmm
terrible pit stop,
Yeah.
and just so take us into the drama there. There was also a big wreck. I don't, was it 10 or 12 cars involved in that wreck at that one
Yeah,
point?
and one of those cars was Chase Elliott, who registered his first DNF of the season. But it was a massive wreck. That was the first thing that really, I guess, separated the field, so to speak. But then we had Bubba Wallace, who was running really well, led something like 132 laps of the race, and then went in for the pit stop. And when he went in for the pit stop, everything looked okay, but then the tire got away. As he was pulling out, here goes a tire, and it's instant penalty with one of those things. You don't have possession of the tire on your car, therefore you lose the chance, you lose some points, and you also get penalized out of it. So some things happened on Saturday night that were some were expected. I think the big thing that a lot of the drivers were talking about was the allotment of tires. They were only given, so many amount of tires, but if they had gotten into a situation of where it came up on certain times for pitting and things like that, if they used one set up, they were going to be short a set. That was because of the way that the surface was. If everything had gone according to plan, they should have been okay. But that's not to count other cautions and things like that that happen along the way. A tire goes down, you have to go and get it repaired. You don't go and just have it fixed like you do at a normal tire place and they plug it. You have to have a whole new tire on. And so Chase Elliott was talking about that. He said that there were going to be some teams that, after he came out of the infield care center, he said that there'll be some teams that'll be shortchanged on some tires with the situation the way it was. But then, we get down to it and we have a finish with Austin Dillon coming back, winning this race, and he did so legally. He didn't bump anybody out of the way like he did last year, so to speak. But there's still a little bit of controversy with it. And the controversy is due in part to Jesse Love. Alex Bowman was not happy that Jesse Love was protecting or, so to speak, blocking him to keep him from trying to contend and get in there to maybe make a move there toward the end of the race and get the win. But I think Alex Bowman just said, we had a good car. We finished things out. That's one good thing about it. But he said, I still don't appreciate this whole thing of, it seemed like that Jesse Love's car was blocking me, keeping me from getting to the front. But this race has set up an entirely predicted scenario that we were talking about prior to going into the Richmond race. You've got these wild cards that have come out of nowhere, and Austin Dillon is this wild card. It was almost the same situation as last year, except he gets the win this time. He holds on to it, and he doesn't have to vacate it. So there he is. Now we're going to Daytona this time around, and there's only two spots remaining, and it's up for grabs, and there is a whole handful of drivers that's up for this that could possibly go away happy or go away just wondering what could have been this season.
Dillon was 25th, I believe, in the points going
Yeah.
into this race. So just like last year, Harrison Burton was in 32nd when he stole one of the
hmm
spots and got to get in the playoffs as a result. And you framed your story that we ran on both on Dickinson Media and on Augusta Free Press
hmm
that ran yesterday and today. For Dillon, it was redemption because
Yeah.
you mentioned that last year he had the win and then he was disqualified, and so good way to kind of close that story out for him, and plus punch his playoff ticket. Maybe sneaking a peek ahead at Daytona, man. I mean, on the super speedway, we got, a number of guys in that, as you mentioned, two spots are up for grabs. So between 15 and say 20, 21 or 22,
hmm
who are in those spots who are, I mean, either looking for points or looking for the win or, whatever they can get. Man, that's going to lead to some interesting racing this coming weekend.
It certainly is, and I want to pull up a story too that we ran on Dickinson Media, and it's from NASCAR Wire Service of just some of the people that could be looking to try to get into this playoff picture. I mean, you've got Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski made the playoffs last year. Now his whole season's hanging in the balance with this one. And on top of that, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. You've got Eric Jones, who has started to pick things up for Legacy Motor Club, and then you have Justin Haley. He's the young guy that a lot of the drivers just don't like because he's young and he likes to push people out of the way. He does things a little bit differently, as of course Carson Hocevar, but he's not in the mix by any means. Then you've got Michael McDowell in that mix as well, and Chris Buescher. Buescher and Keselowski both are struggling to try to find their way into these playoffs, and it's like with Kyle Busch, every one of them, these races are coming down to this one at Daytona, and if they've not been on guard for this, Saturday is the best time for them to get on guard and get on the stick, because they're not going to have any more chances after this.
And it's one of those things. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of big names in there. There's a bunch of playoff drivers in
Mhm.
that group, and only two of them are, or someone else, another wild card, another
Yeah.
person like an Austin Dillon or from last year Harrison Burton, is going to sneak in again. So yeah, that's challenging, to say the
I
least.
wouldn't rule out Carson Hocevar either. I mean,
Yeah.
Carson Hocevar, he's not up there close to the playoff cut line, but he could win this race. I mean, if he has a good performance like he has on some of the super speedways this year, and he can pull something out and get everything together, he might pick up his first NASCAR win and also his first trip to the playoffs. I mean, everything is kind of like sort of like an old professor that we used to have at Clinch Valley College. He would go and grade his papers. He stood up on the second floor of the Zemer building and all of his psychology papers, and he threw them up in the air. And when he threw them up in the air, I don't know how, by some miracle, but the first one that hit the floor, he had it marked, but they got an A out of that paper. The rest of the papers just flew on down, and then he just graded them as they fell. So I don't know how he pulled it off, but this is sort of like that. It's one of those, if it happens in the right moment, it will happen, but the rest, they'll just have to fall in line.
That's an interesting story about that professor. It gave you a chance, right? I mean, you had a
Yeah,
chance.
yeah.
Even if you didn't earn it, you had a chance at an A. All right, so so go off the track news for a minute. I was just thinking we got a name change coming next year, and it made me think. I mean, it felt like 100 years ago. It took us a while to get used to that not being the Winston Cup.
Right.
I mean, it seems like so long ago that that's the case, and we're long past that now. But okay, Xfinity is ending its sponsorship of the Xfinity Series, the second
Mhm.
tier series this year. I don't know. O'Reilly Auto Parts Cup. That's going to take some getting used to.
Well, this is for the Xfinity Series, the Junior League, as I call it. But, it's a name change, and it's one that Xfinity has been looking for a way to kind of fall back and kind of maneuver back a little bit more out of it. They've been like, the big sponsor out of a lot of this stuff, especially the Cup Series along with Coca-Cola. But now they're starting to, choose some different directions is the way they're going. And it kind of caught me off guard when I saw the response coming out of it that, here they are. And, I've got another piece of information I'm going to drop on you that kind of surprising too. There is a rumor going around that they are going to move the All-Star race for next year. And the All-Star race will not be in North Wilkesboro. It will not be in the Carolinas. But they are thinking about moving the All-Star race, of all places, to Dover, Delaware. Now, I'm wondering how that's even going to play off. I don't know how that's even going to be a plus for NASCAR with this. I think with this thing of O'Reilly and the Auto Parts series, the series that's going to be in effect, kind of reminds me of the old Bush series. That's what they used to call it. That's what I've been caught saying several times when I've been on with you on a podcast. But the Bush series, the Nationwide series, and then of course we got to the Xfinity series, and so now we're changing again. So it's the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, and I think it's got a good future ahead. Now the question is, who is going to move into different positions with this coming up next year for, I call it sort of like a realignment, so to speak. It's going to be a realignment on sponsors with some things happening that, still in question. We still don't know what the outcome is going to be with the Denny Hamlin Michael Jordan case with 2311 as they go into December after the racing season's over with. So we've got a lot of ifs and buts right now. We really don't know what the future holds. But I'm gonna go out on the limb with this. I think NASCAR, in order to save face, and they're going to have to save their reputation out of this, they are going to have to look at the possibility of adding someone who does not have family connections, the France family or whatever has had some kind of affiliation to them. And I think you're going to see somebody like a Steve O'Donnell, and they're going to step down. Something's going to happen if this case goes the way I think it's going to go. Somebody's going to be stepping down. And I'm pulling right now for two people to be named commissioner because they could bring this sport back and they could possibly save it from the brink. As right now, it's just, there's too many things. This next generation car, at first I was sold on it, but now I'm soured on it a lot. But I'm pulling for either Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Kevin Harvick as possibly a commissioner for NASCAR. Now that may seem far-fetched. I don't know how you would go about doing it. I don't know if the France family would even consider doing something like this. If they have to diversify, with this company and divest themselves of all this, there's going to be changes. And, Dale Jr. has been very vocal about some of these things. He thinks a lot of them are being made without the drivers and without the fans, calling the shots on this, or at least having some kind of say in the matter. And I think that's pretty evident. I think we've seen that over the last couple of years, the way things have been running.
A new commissioner wouldn't be. I mean, I just read a biography of Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the first sports commissioner that any of us, ever heard of, and he was the first main guy. Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis took over after the Black Sox scandal, and he wanted and got full power. I mean, he had more power than the owners did, and he exercised that for like 30 years. Now the baseball commissioner is sort of, I mean, it's a PR job. He's more of a paper pusher. I would think that, NASCAR would do well to have a PR like a Dale Earnhardt Jr. or a Kevin Harvick. They wouldn't necessarily be a guy that would have, either one of them wouldn't be the guy that would say, here's how we're going to do things and it's going to be my way or the highway. But they would be sort of an ambassador, and
Right.
for the fans, and it would put a good face on NASCAR. I just wonder if Dale would even want it because he seems to enjoy what he's doing right now, being able to be critical and race every once in a while and be the and be be on commentary when he wants to be,
Right.
and Harvick too, actually Harvick's pretty good at commentary, but
Mm-hmm.
either of those guys, because of their good nature and and fans love them, would suit well for NASCAR going forward.
Yeah, that's just an idea I've thrown forward because I just feel like that you need a racer that has some experience, that has some know-how, that knows truthfully how to play the fans, that knows how the fans go and how the fans think about things. And Junior is having so much success going back on that Cars tour and racing a little bit. He raced the Budweiser baseball car the other night at one of the tracks there in the Carolinas, and instantly everybody just comes out because it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. That's what they're doing. It's a great pull. And then I saw something just over the weekend that kind of surprised me a great deal, and I don't know where this is going to go just yet, but our local track that's not far from me, Lonesome Pine Motorsports Park or Lonesome Pine Raceway, it has seen a number of good legends come through there, and Darrell Waltrip, Alan Kulwicki, Dale Earnhardt, Harry Gant. They're once again up for sale. That kind of surprised me. They claim that somebody is very interested in the track and going to take it over, but it's a matter of PR. It's a matter of making things more affordable, making things more like a family sport again. And, I see Dale Jr. kind of in that, kind of in that shadow of Big Bill France. And Big Bill France, you talking about Kennesaw right there, talking about him during his time. Wow, he was firm hand. He ruled things, but so did Big Bill France. And the sport grew and the sport grew, and then Bill France Jr. kind of modernized it a little bit more. He kind of took that same attitude, but he made it a little bit more acceptable to the masses. And that's the reason why you had such a big surge in the, mid 80s, I guess, mid 80s to around the mid 90s when NASCAR was really, cooking and going along. And then suddenly, everything changed. And I have to attribute that to the Brian France thing of bringing Brian France in to run the operation. I don't think they were looking at fans. I think they were looking at dollar signs. And rightly so, they have to look at that because that is a business. They have to run it like a business. But your fans ultimately drive what kind of money you're going to have in the sport. And I don't think they've really done a good job of taking care of them here over the last few years.
UFC just made a money grab. WWE just made a money grab, and
Mhm.
the same kind of questions are being asked by fans of those two entities. I just had an idea though. Okay, so let's say that antitrust suit goes the way we both think it's going to go this December into January, probably. Um, what if the plaintiffs ask as part of the settlement that Denny Hamlin gets to be the commissioner? Let's just imagine Denny Hamlin as commissioner. Denny Hamlin would be a Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis like commissioner, and one of the things he could do every time he would suspend a driver, I am Denny Hamlin, and I just suspended your favorite driver.
That's too much.
Yeah, yeah,
Too
yeah.
much for me to think about. No, I can't picture Teddy Hamlin in there. Now, Michael Jordan, that might be interesting, but they would say no. Michael Jordan, he doesn't know that much about NASCAR. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. But
I'm
wow,
Denny Hamlin. I just find your favorite driver. I'm
I
Denny
just
Hamlin.
find your favorite driver.
I
Yep,
just, I just took the win away on a technicality from your favorite driver. I mean,
just
there's
because
all
I
kinds
felt like it, just because I wanted to. So
because I felt like that's right. His spoiler looked a little too funny. Oh no, that's so we talked about Daytona. Any more thoughts about that? I mean, we have a huge race with all these guys who need a playoff berth. Any last thoughts on Daytona?
this could be the wildest race I think we've seen of the year.
Yeah.
Uh, it's desperation right now for some of these teams, and I really would not be surprised to see some desperation out of some drivers who need to make a big move to where they can get to where they need to be. And I'm just going to point out the ones that I think really just jump out at me: Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch. That's just a few of them right there. These guys have been there before. They've been in the playoff hunt before. Ricky Stenhouse, he's going to have to prove that he is quite capable of pulling off a win. He's been successful at super speedways, but he's got to be able to carry that momentum going on into the playoffs. That's what everybody else is asking too. Okay, where was Shane Ginsburg or Van Ginsbergen the other night in at Richmond? Chances are he's probably sandbagging. That's just my opinion about it. I think he might have been sandbagging a little bit because he knows he's in the playoffs. And then when it comes time after this Daytona race, he may open it up. We may see a completely different side to Van Gisbergen that we've seen before. And of course, he does have one more technically road course race that's coming up, and that'll be the Roval in October, and that is another cutoff point. So he'll be desperate to try to hang in there and try to see what he can do.
Close a book on something as we're closing up the show. Our colleague Scott German he was in Richmond. He was at RIR for Saturday night's race. Thanks you for your help helping him figure out some things. He sent me some pictures. He was texting me during the race.
Uh huh.
It got to a point where because he got in, he was sitting pretty high up in that one grandstand that's the one that's extended up there. He got in he didn't care where he was sitting. He was him and his son and his son's girlfriend, and he started sending me pictures of the folks around him. There were a couple of really interesting folks. It took me a couple of pictures to figure out these folks. It was a couple guys with more tattoos than bare skin with their shirts off. And they were pretty good sized young fellas. Um, Probably shouldn't be in public with their shirts off. I mean, just from the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But also the one guy was carrying. He had with him a watermelon, and Scott kept asking me, what is with the watermelon? It took me a couple of times to figure out they're probably Ross Chastain fans,
Yeah,
right?
Ross Chastain fans.
Because they had not only was there a full watermelon, but also the watermelon they had planted a little checkered flag in the top of it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, and then I had to tell Scott, I feel really pathetic that I know that them carrying the watermelon means that they're Ross Chastain fans. He said, "Yeah, Chris, you're way too much into NASCAR for my liking as far as that's concerned." He had a good time though. It looked like a good crowd. It looked like
Yeah,
from
they
the
had a sold out crowd. That was a good thing. I was happy with that to see that
yeah.
they had a sold out crowd. But yeah, I'm sorry that that happened to Scott and wondering what in the world was going on. I mean, it's one thing to have a beer spilled on your back while you're at a race and you're sitting there as a spectator and the guy behind you says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I meant for that to go in my mouth, but I'm sorry I spilled it on you," and still be at least partially sober. But then these guys up there with no shirts on, and it happens. It happens at these tracks all over the place, and I know Talladega has some strange ones. Daytona will have some strange ones this coming Saturday night as well. But yeah, that watermelon, that's a Ross Chastain thing, but not necessarily a Ross Chastain. Somebody pulled out a picture. I saw it just I think yesterday, and they said that. Truly, Ross Chastain cannot claim the watermelon man status anymore. And it was an old picture of Mark Martin, and he
Okay.
was eating a slice of watermelon that was bigger than him. I mean, he's not a big fella anyway, and the rind was just huge on him, and he's eating it away, and he's at a racetrack somewhere, and that's what they had to go and eat or whatever it was and stuff because we've talked about this whole thing before. You got to eat, got to get water in your system, and that's probably one of the best ways. But yeah, I hate that for Scott that he had to endure this, seeing that sort of thing. But I'm glad he was in a good location. I don't know. I told him to try to be in one of the locations at least, or the seats to where he could see probably some of the best action. I'm hoping he got a chance to see that big wreck that took place because that was one that looked pretty interesting the way that wreck all came about.
I'll tell you what he told me was because he called me up on Friday before going down on Saturday, and he said, he opened his big mouth. His son's girlfriend said she's a NASCAR fan, never been to a race though, and he's like, "Hey, there's a race in Richmond coming up. We should go to that one." And he said, "I'll buy the tickets." And because he figured he hadn't been to a race in over like 15 years,
Yeah.
and he figured, oh, it's like there's all these seats. I'll get tickets for $25. No.
No.
Nowhere close. So he got the get in the door tickets, and he sent me a picture. He was so high up that he had a great view of the parking garage. So, and you could tell from the parking garage there were a lot of people there. I said, I hope you're not in a hurry to get home. When he showed me because he didn't just send me a photo, he sent me a video. He's like panning around like. Yeah, you're gonna be in traffic for a while, buddy. So I hope you can camp out for a while. But no, he seemed like he had a good time again, and he said that the seatmates kind of made it interesting. Like they were into it. Like he didn't know as much. Certainly, he hadn't followed NASCAR
Mhm.
closely like he did years ago. But just watching the fans was kind of interesting to see how much they got into it. And
Yep.
he did have a good view of the wreck. He didn't have as good a view of the tire falling off. He wondered what happened to Bubba. So I sent him a video of
Mhm.
I took a video of the TV and sent it to him. Uh, but no, yeah, great to see Richmond. I mean, maybe having a sellout will help, the case for down the road getting that second race back, and it could be good for RIR down the road.
Maybe they could go and think about instead of going to Dover, Delaware, maybe they could put the All-Star race at Richmond. I think that would be a great, kind of little prize since they lost a race. Let them have it back at Richmond and see what it could do. I mean, put it in May, the same time that they normally do with the All-Star race, but let them have it in Richmond. But it's probably more linked to Speedway Motorsports, I guess, with anything, the way that this whole thing has been put about over the last few years. But yeah, it's that's one of the things. That's one of the caveats, I guess, of this thing. This whole thing of Richmond losing the race has hurt, and it's hurt a lot of people. But I think they're trying their best to prove, hey, you should take a look at us again, and I think they should. I think they should. Richmond has always been an entertaining race to me. Watching on television, it's just an exciting racetrack.
My final thought here on the podcast, I'm just thinking of a guy like walking from his car with a watermelon, going through the security and everything else. I mean, that's dedication. That's all I
Yeah.
can say about that.
I mean, hey, he saves himself of, hauling in the cooler. I mean, at least he doesn't have to have the cooler and stuff. And, they've got clear bags and all these things now. So, he handled that greatly. But I will tell you this right before we go. Bristol is on track to getting everything back in order after the Speedway
Um,
Classic. I know that they've gotten the the new tire building back almost under roof. And I think they've gotten pit wall accomplished, or at least that accomplished in a couple of different areas. But that big building was one of the biggest things that they were going to have to do. And the massive teardown with all that, man, they've been working overtime. And I don't know about you, we've had a lot of rain down here. We've had a lot of rain. Things have gotten away from me down here, and I have jungle around through here, and I've got to get caught up on it. So, yeah, they've been able to get through some stuff, but yeah, that's not far away. We're only here in it's already passed. We're less than a month away now from NASCAR at Bristol coming up in September.
yeah, we're in a drought. I could probably, just drop a dry match and it would set a fire. It's so dry up here. But yeah, I'm gonna miss that baseball field. That was a nice baseball field they
Yeah.
built out of nothing in 2 months. So
Yeah.
that's something. Well, Rod, as always, thank you for your time, your insight. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.